Hi all, good evening and welcome. I'm Mangesh Deshmukh from Corporate Communications team, and on behalf of CareEdge, I welcome you to our today's discussion on Indian road sector stirring through obstacles, and sincerely appreciate your time in joining us for this webinar. We would like to welcome our esteemed guest speakers for today, Mr. Anand Rathi, Group CFO, GR Infra Projects Limited, Mr. B.M. Rao, CGM Finance, National Highway Authority of India, Mr. Vikas Shinde, Head Debt Capital Market, Axis Bank, Mr. Vinay Sekar, CEO, Cube Highways. The session will be moderated by Maulesh Desai, Director at CareEdge. We will commence the session with a presentation by Palak Vyas and Setu Gajjar, Group Head of Transportation Vertical. This session will be followed by a panel discussion and Q&A session. In case of queries, participants are requested to key in your panel. We will take up your queries during panel discussion session. Now, I invite Palak and Setu to make the presentation.
Hi, thank you, Mangesh. Good afternoon and warm welcome to one and all. Today's presentation will cover reforms-led impact for the road sector, asset monetization potential, followed by care rating study on 100 operational toll roads and study on 306 NH HAM projects and its impact on major HAM sponsors. Now, beginning the presentation with the investment in the road sector, over the period of FY17 to FY23, the cumulative investment in the road sector, both by central as well as by state government, registered compounded annual growth rate, that is CAGR, of 13% with outlay of approximately 21 lakh crores. With thrust of government on road sector, CAGR growth of investment in the sector has surpassed the GDP growth rates in the past. State capex for the roads also gained momentum due to launch of National Infrastructure Pipeline. As seen in the graph on the right side, construction of prominent expressways like Purvanchal Expressway, Nagpur-Mumbai Expressway, etc. has bolstered state investment in Uttar Pradesh and Maharashtra. Going forward, capital outlay for the sector is expected to grow at a CAGR of 15% over the period of FY23 to FY25, driven by higher land acquisition cost and focus on greenfield expressways. Moving on next, in line with CARE Ratings' earlier estimate, both the pace of award as well as construction were stable during FY23 as compared to FY22. Going forward, we believe that pace of award is expected to slow down by 5 to 10% in FY24 over FY23 due to legislative elections. Also, the pace of execution is expected to remain stable owing execution challenges which shall be dealt with in later part of the presentation. Moving ahead, let's glance through the key reform initiated by Government of India and its impact on the sector. Introduction of hybrid annuity model, that is HAM, has led to increase in the construction of national highways from 98,000 kilometers in FY15 to 1,45,000 kilometers in FY23. Over 300 plus HAM projects have been awarded till March 2023. Monthly release of payment and grant under Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme has led to savings in the interest during construction at SPV levels and has also improved working capital cycle of developers by 15 days. CARE Ratings opines that monthly payment aided liquidity of 10,000 to 12,000 crores for developers. Introduction of FASTag has helped not only in curbing leakages but has also bolstered investor confidence. NHAI has raised 37,000 crores through InvIT as well as TOT model, which has supported the awarding activities for the sector. Moving on, substitution of the weak sponsor has benefited HAM projects aggregating bid project cost of rupees 12,000 crores apart from languishing toll roads. NHAI has received more than 2x budgetary support in FY23 versus FY22, which shall also help in limiting the debt for NHAI. One of the recent initiatives by Government of India is Vivad se Vishwas. This is one of the recent reforms introduced for one-time settlement scheme of arbitration awards and claims passed by competent authority without any requirement of submission of bank guarantees. Successful implementation of the scheme shall boost developers' liquidity and leverage profile. Additionally, there has also been amendment in the bid eligibility, which has now been linked to credit rating of the developers. Moving on to our next section is the study of CARE-rated 100 plus operational toll roads. Now, in line with the CARE ratings earlier expectation, toll collection in the portfolio witnessed healthy growth of 23% during FY23 backed by higher WPI. As seen in the left side of the slide, traffic volumes has also surpassed pre-COVID levels to 1.11x in FY23 and is estimated to reach 1.15x of pre-COVID levels during FY24. With easing of WPI, toll growth for FY24 is estimated at 12%. Looking at the opportunities and challenges for the toll roads, the credit profile of the roads continue to remain healthy, as evident from COVID-19 resilient performance of most of the investment grade rated portfolio. Increase in the fast track penetration to 98%, thrust on the construction activities, low leverage of asset transfer to InvIT, along with the presence of liquidity buffer has led to stable credit profile of toll projects. The same has bolstered investor confidence for asset monetization. However, construction of parallel greenfield expressways like Delhi-Mumbai corridor, Mumbai-Nagpur road, Ganga expressway, etc. continue to pose challenges for the toll sector. This apart, completion of both eastern and western dedicated freight corridor shall also pose traffic diversion risk mainly to the stretches located on NH2 and NH8 respectively. Outlook for the toll road sector is stable. Talking about the asset monetization potential, as seen from the graph, during FY22 to FY23, pace of monetization has been slower with achievement of 10% of the targeted length under National Monetization Pipeline. Nevertheless, realization stood higher at 22 crores per kilometer during FY22 and 23 as against target of 6 crore per kilometer, supporting strong asset monetization potential. Moving to the next slide, asset under management for roads InvIT stood healthy at 1.35 lakh crore with 103 assets already being transferred to 9 InvITs. Mature toll roads constitute a lion's share in existing AUM. The sector holds significant potential for monetization in the medium term through an expanded portfolio of NH HAM asset as well as EPC projects. CARE Ratings estimates an additional monetization potential of HAM projects with a BPC of 2 to 2.5 lakh crores over FY24 to 27. Additionally, an EPC length of 4,000 to 4,500 km is expected to be operational for NHAI each year, which can potentially be transferred to InvIT or TOT. With this, I hand over to my colleague Setu for presenting the study on NH HAM projects and its impact on the major sponsors. Thank you.
Thank you, Palak. CARE Ratings has studied 306 NHI HAM projects with an aggregate length of 12,700 kilometers, bid project cost of 3.35 lakh crores, and a debt of 90,000 crores. These projects are awarded to 62 unique sponsors from FY16 to FY23. As presented on the top right chart, around 29% of the sample BPC have become operational, around 47% are under construction, while balance 23% are awaiting appointed date. CARE Rating believes that sponsors' credit profile has a strong linkages for timely execution and funding equity commitments in the HAM projects. Thus, we have bifurcated sponsors into strong, moderate, and weak category basis their financial and operational risk profile. As seen in the bottom right graph, strong sponsors constitute 68% of the sample BPC, followed by moderate sponsor at 29% and balance 3% from the weak sponsors. For analysis purpose, we have now divided the sample into two parts: projects awarded before March 2020 and after March 2020. As seen on the pie chart on the left side, 88% of the sample aggregating to BPC of over 1 lakh crore, which were awarded prior to March 2020, have become operational, which is a very big positive for the sector. 12% of the projects have been delayed, of which 75% of the delayed projects belong to weak sponsors, owing to which corresponding debt of around 4,000 crores can be viewed at higher risk. Harmonious substitution of the sponsors can be a probable risk mitigant for such cases. Moving on, of the operational portfolio of over 80 plus HAM projects with an aggregate debt of 41,000 crores, 87% of the project debt is expected to have strong cash flow resilience. The same is supported by completion cost being higher at 110 to 130% of the original BPC to the benefit of higher inflation, low project leverage marked by debt to BPC of less than 40%, and repo-linked term debt structure for few of the projects. These projects reflect opportunities to unlock equity aggregating to 9 to 11,000 crores. Moving on, CareRatings, during its earlier webinars, had opined that competitive intensity in the sector has increased due to foray of mid-sized players having moderate credit profile, which is visible on the left side of the graph. The share of moderate to weak sponsor has increased from 22% to 32% for the projects awarded post-March 2020. Looking at the trend of bidding premium for HAM projects on the right side of the slide, the aggressive bidding across sponsor categories has steadily pulled down bidding premium to 4% above NHI cost during FY23 as against 15% during FY22. Therefore, now let's deep dive into the execution status of the projects awarded post-March 2020. As seen from the graph on the left side of the slide, only 2% of the sample BPC is operational, while 1/3 of the sample BPC are awaiting appointed date, of which projects with aggregate BPC of over 14,000 crores are at the risk of termination with AD awaited for over a year. 64% of the sample BPC of approximately 1.5 lakh crores are under various stages of constructions. On analyzing further, these under construction projects, as presented on the right side of the slide, it is inferred that 27% of the portfolio is progressing on time or ahead of schedule, 37% of the projects were under nascent stage, while balance 1/3 of the sample BPC are progressing with a delay of around 4 to 6 months beyond the grace period of 3 months. It is pertinent to mention that delayed projects are across all the sponsor categories. Now, let's look at the prominent reasons for heightened execution woes. Firstly, delays in utility shifting and tree cutting, non-availability of hindrance-free and continuous right-of-way, delay in approvals including for borrow area and aggregate query, and excessive rainfall and water clogging are the prominent reasons for delayed execution. While delay in the projects can lead to cost overrun, it can also impact the revenue visibility as well as the profitability for the sponsor, apart from increasing working capital intensity. The risk to an extent can be mitigated in case of timely receipt of EOT from the authority, along with permitted escalation, as well as monthly milestone payments. Moving forward, onto the last section of our presentation, that is impact of HAM projects on the credit profile of the sponsors. We have analyzed key financials of 19 sponsors having portfolio of under construction HAM projects and also acting as an EPC contractor for executing these projects. As inferred from this slide, the total operating income of these sponsors grew at a CAGR of over 15% from FY19 to FY23 due to timely execution of substantial HAM projects. However, CareRating expects a degrowth of around 5% in the top line during FY24, owing to heightened execution challenges leading to delay in project execution, along with pending receipt of appointed date for a large chunk of projects. Operating profitability moderated from 17% in FY20 to 14% in FY23 due to disproportionate hike in commodity prices over the WPI. CareRating opines that operating margins are expected to remain steady and range-bound in the medium term despite softening of commodity prices due to heightened competition, which shall negate the benefit of lowering of input prices. Moving ahead to the next slide, it is inferred that leverage stood low for the strong sponsors, marked by debt to EBITDA of 1.1 times for FY23, while for moderate sponsors, it remained at 2.52 times. As seen from the right side of the graph, the strong sponsor has healthy interest coverage in comparison to moderate sponsors. Therefore, healthy balance sheet indicators shall aid financial flexibility for the strong sponsors. Moving to the capital structure trend as mentioned in the left slide, capital structure marked by total outside liabilities to tangible net worth, that is TOL by TNW, also stood comfortable at 0.65 times as at March 31, 2023 for strong sponsors, while for moderate sponsors, it stood at 1.6 times. In the context of leverage and capital structure, now let's examine the underlying funding challenges of HAM projects. Pending equity commitments for ongoing HAM projects are estimated at around 15,000 crores as of March 2023, with equity commitment as a percentage of net worth and equity commitment with respect to cash accruals being comparable for strong as well as moderate sponsors. However, it is pertinent to note that equity commitments for strong sponsors are to be infused over next 2 to 2.5 years, while that of moderate sponsors are to be infused over next 1 to 1.5 years. Financing risk further accentuates for sponsors with large proportion of under construction portfolio and relatively stricter sanction terms. With this, we conclude our HAM study and its impacts analysis on the sponsor. Now, let's have a look at the key takeaways from the presentation. While the Government of India has initiated a series of reforms over a decade, in our opinion, release of monthly payments under the Atmanirbhar has benefited the sector the most. This has aided the liquidity of the sponsors by 10 to 12,000 crores for road developers and improved the working capital cycle by around 15 days. Resilient performance of toll roads led to boosted investor appetite for TOT as well as InvIT. 88% of the sample BPC awarded prior to March 2020 have been operational, offering robust asset monetization potential for the sector. However, HAM projects awarded post-March 2020 are facing headwinds due to heightened competition and increased complexities, with 1/3 of the sample BPC being delayed. Large chunk of the projects are awaiting appointed date more than 1 year, and therefore, CARE Rating expects a minor degrowth in the total operating income of such sponsors, along with increased funding challenges for moderate sponsors. Pace of execution for NHAI projects is expected to remain stable. With this, we end our presentation. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Over to you, Mangesh.
Thank you, Setu and Palak. Attendees are requested to key their questions, which we will take up during our panel discussion. Now, may I invite Maulesh to take over the session, please. Maulesh is Director and Rating Heads with CareEdge Ratings for the transportation sector and handling the portfolio of infrastructure sector companies. He holds a bachelor's degree in engineering, MBA Finance. He is also associate member of ICWAI and certified associate of Indian Institute of Bankers. He has more than 18 years of industry experience, including 15.5 years in CareEdge. Prior to joining CareEdge Ratings, he worked with credit appraisal and credit operations in a large private sector bank. Over to you.
Thank you, Mangesh, for the quick introduction. Many thanks to Palak and Setu for sharing 360-degree perspective on the road sector through insightful presentation. Good evening and warm welcome to all participants. Let me begin the session with the quote from H.W. Longfellow. A single conversation across the table with a wise man is better than mere study of books for 10 years. Indeed, it is our pleasure to have 4 industry experts representing the entire stakeholder spectrum to discuss the threadbare on the road sector and share their deep insight before us. I would now like to introduce each one of them in the alphabetical order. First one is Mr. Anand Rathi. Mr. Rathi is the Group Chief Financial Officer of GR Infra Projects Limited. He has been associated with GR Infra since March 2009 in leadership role and handling gamut of responsibilities including fundraising, asset monetization, project finance, and strategic decision making. He is an associate of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, an associate of Institute of Cost and Management Accountants of India, and associate of Institute of Company Secretary of India. He brings 25 years of rich experience on the table. Welcome, Mr. Rathi. Next panelist is Mr. B.M. Rao. Mr. Rao is the Chief General Manager Finance at NHAI and has been associated with NHAI since last 6 years. He brings with him a rich experience of 36 years in finance and accounts, business process re-engineering, industrial engineering, and teaching of finance, industrial economics, and industrial engineering subjects. Mr. Rao is a civil engineer by qualification and holds master degree in industrial engineering. He is also rank holder of ICWA and qualified company secretary. Very warm welcome, sir. Our third panelist for today's session is Mr. Vikas Shinde. Vikas is the head debt capital market at Axis Bank. He started his career with Botek Investment Bank and has been associated with Axis Bank since 2006. Vikas has assumed various roles in his tenure at the bank and is presently heading the entire debt capital market vertical since 2017. He has around 23 years of rich experience in the financial service industries with expertise in fixed income and structured finance. Vikas has conceptualized and executed various transactions in the infrastructure segment such as roads, renewables, transmission, InvIT, etc. in fixed income space. Vikas holds MMS in finance from Somaiya Institute of Management, Mumbai University. Welcome, Vikas. And now let me introduce to our fourth expert, Mr. Vinay Sekar. Vinay is the Chief Executive Officer of Cube Highway Fund Advisor, which acts as the investment manager of the Cube Highways Trust. As a part of the founding team of Cube Highways, Vinay has played leadership roles across investment, financing, and asset management. He is seasoned infrastructure professional, having spent over last 15 years in the sector and with a transaction experience of over 5 billion USD. Vinay holds a master's degree in management from IIM Ahmedabad and a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from IIT Madras. Welcome, Vinay, in today's session. It's time to quickly set the context before we begin the panel discussion. As Palak and Setu have mentioned in their presentation, Indian road sector has witnessed transformative journey over last decade, led by a series of reforms initiated by regulator. The same is visible from achievement of PCOD by large chunk of HAM projects, enhanced liquidity of road developers, strong performance of operational toll road, and bolstered investor confidence for TOT and InvIT. Lender share of capex funding to the sector also grew steeply to 36.5% in FY23. Yet, the obstacles in the journey are expected to continue with rise in bidding aggression since last 2 years, development of alternate routes, and some ambiguity with respect to change in law. Therefore, from infrastructure creation perspective, it becomes imperative to understand how these challenges are unfolding and tackled at each level. I would not like to impose myself on the answer of these questions, and I am sure we will have the experts tell us how they think this will work out. So my first question is to you, Mr. Vikas. As we have seen in the presentation, performance of toll roads remained resilient even during the COVID time. In fact, the credit profile of a large proportion of operational toll road have improved post refinancing and their transfer to the InvIT. So in this context, what is your experience in funding of operational toll roads, including TOT?
So the key aspect I would say is pre-COVID we had issues in terms of leakages and in terms of collections, etc. But post, I would say COVID, there's a lot of resilience that has been seen in this sector. Predominantly, what we have seen is post introduction of FASTag, there's a drastic amount of reduction in the revenue collections. As a result of which, we have seen, appetite from lender side also has increased to a large extent, and a wide variety of participants from investor fraternity is also there. In turn, it has given rise to deleveraging of balance sheets, especially for the concessioners, and with introduction of lot of I would say schemes by SEBI in terms of REITs and InvITs, we have seen larger participation from these players. As a result of which, deleveraging of balance sheets predominantly from concessioners is been seen, and going ahead we will see this deleveraging happening. In addition to it, as a result of which, you will find a lot of concessioners bidding aggressively in other segment as well, especially in TOT and HAM. So going forward, we think that there's a play for concessioner. At the same time, there's a play for InvIT fund managers as well. So it's a win-win probably in total for the sector as well, in addition to the markets.
Yeah, true, correct. So your response does echo with our presentation also, wherein we have mentioned that the FASTag and deleveraging that has benefited the sector at the most. So like the construction is now being taken over by the developers, and once projects are become operational, so that responsibility is now with the investor. So that has actually benefited the sector. And in fact, in our care rating experience, wherein the toll roads rated A category and above, we have witnessed a higher stability over last decade. So it's quite encouraging for the investor as well. So undoubtedly, now coming to Mr. Vinay. So undoubtedly, we are in this interesting time with respect to investor appetite for toll roads. So, but however, challenges in the ramp up of traffic in the initial years and traffic diversion to alternate routes. So that may lead to underachievement in the target traffic at times and necessitate the extension of the concession period. So some of the projects were also due for extension of concession period during last 2 years. So in this context, and being an industry leader in the toll roads, what is your take on extension of concession on ground by authority?
Thanks, Maulesh. Yes, I think there is the concession clause is fairly clear, and some of the projects do have a traffic link. The older projects have the traffic linked extensions that decrease in concession length. I think the first generation of projects that have these features have just about got their target traffic completed in the last one or 2 years. Mostly last 1 year, because you need 3 years of continuous target traffic measurement. On ground, I think this process is ongoing in terms of how this needs to be computed and how this needs to be vetted by the independent engineer and then through the NHAI cycles. Given the fact that this is the first round of assets that are going to see this that I think will possibly take some time procedurally. But then once this sort of process is set, I think eventually this will be a far more automatic process. In any case, the new concessions where TOT, for example, the targets are revenue based. So there is no, it is much clearer. When you have traffic based, you need to compute the traffic, you need to exclude certain traffic, you need to do a PCU, weights, etc. I think for the future, anyways, that's been addressed. But for this current set of projects, this is, I think, procedurally, it will take some time. But the good thing is that most of these assets are anyways long dated, and therefore there is time for us to get these on ground sort of sorted out.
Okay. So, sir, the big message that I can gather is that for the projects which in the first earlier projects where there is a target traffic clause is linked to the traffic, so those are under evaluation phase. But the TOT, yes, as you rightly pointed out, it's a link to the toll revenue. So those that will lead to no ambiguity and will bolster the investor confidence. Correct. So, so my next question is to Mr. Rao. So the connecting question is only on this regard. So do you feel, sir, any gap in the computation of target traffic and anything needs to be done for a timely extension of a concession period, Mr. Rao?
Actually, I will tell the clauses also. Actually, there is a divergence opinion in the concession agreement clauses regarding the traffic. Suppose in case of the BOT toll projects may that 2.5 triggering is the 2.5, and whereas in case of TOT concession agreements it is 20 times. So now actually this disparity we have identified. We are in the thought process how to make it similar in both the projects, because BOT toll and TOT also, both of them are PPP projects. So that the difference whatever we have identified, we want to narrow it down, so that in future there will not be any problem regarding the concession extension. And another thing is, as far as the traffic service is concerned, mainly with almost 98% fast-track penetration, the only thing is we have to take care about the cash collections. Compared to earlier period, now we are having the robust system, IHMs are also, data is available, and at the same time, the fast-track also 98%. But still, the cash collection we are collecting manually. With that one, there may not be any much difference in the traffic details.
Okay, understood, sir. So as mentioned by you, so now the authority is also working in the right direction to bridge this gap, what was there earlier. And because of this now fast-track implementation, there will not be a major gap with respect to the toll revenue in the TOT projects, especially when it is linked to the toll. Correct, sir. So now my next question is to Mr. Vinay. So we will move to our next topic on asset monetization. So as inferred from the presentation, the HAM projects of close to 1 lakh crore are operational as on June 30th. So in this context, how do you see M&A potential in the next year as an investor, especially if we see the traction so far is moderate? So your view on this?
No, I think there are a few assets that have transacted, but there are quite a few that are in the process of getting transferred. I think over the next 1 year, you will see that a majority of the assets will have some sort of transaction happening, whether it is selling to an existing set of investors or an existing InvIT, or creation of an InvIT on their own also. So there are some, of course, developers who are in the process of doing that. I think the timing is also quite conducive, given the fact that we've seen the bank rate moving up significantly over the last 2 years. And therefore, while you showed a picture of contracting of margins for the EPC player, but for the EPC players holding HAM assets, the increase in bank rate also increases value in these assets. So therefore, I think that's also a picture that needs to sort of complete that story. And given that, and the fact that WPI, and because of which BPC also increases, while there's a contract of margin, but there's a BPC increase, you will find that these are all quite valuable and will transact in the next period of time. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Vinay, for your insight on these emerging opportunities for monetization. However, if we see the clarity on the change in law payments, so that is also equally important for unlocking the monetization potential. So coming to you on this change in law aspect, Mr. Rathi. So while NHI is forthcoming in finalizing the modalities for release of GST component on annuities while coming out with the circulars and also implementing the same on the ground, what is your take on release of GST component on annuities by NHI and also to the state authorities for projects awarded prior to the GST era?
Yeah, so thanks, Maulesh. So I would say that NHI would be quite just in terms of coming out with various circular for the release of or reimbursement of change of GST because of change of law, and GST regime came into picture. So many circulars, and yes, I mean on ground there is some practical issues which we are facing as industry is facing basically. Yes, but NHI is quite clear in terms of releasing the GST on account of change of law. And as far as that state authorities are concerned, I think there are the challenges, right? That state authorities may not be, I mean, because of the budget issue or maybe the lack of understanding at their level. But yes, of course, at state authorities, GST release of GST, additional GST is challenge which we at industry level we are facing. But one more thing that I like to highlight is that probably industry is more facing not because of release of GST by NHI, but it's how that HAM projects are being taxed, and the difference of opinion between NHI as well as Ministry of Finance. So I think that probably if NHI can take up with the Ministry of Finance, it would be better for the industry. And otherwise, right now, but at industry level, we are feeling that we have been, posed for litigation with various GST department on this taxation aspect of HAM projects. Yeah.
Okay, understood. So the big message that I have gathered is that the NHI is quite forthcoming in terms of coming out with the circular as well as the releasing. But there are some challenges with respect to the state annuity projects because of the lack of budgetary provision. And there is still some scope of possibility of a litigation because of some gaps between the NHI and the developer on this GST issues. So my next question is to Mr. Rao. So while NHI has institutionalized the processes over the years leading to the positive traction, what, according to you, are these gaps in the present framework for compensating developers for GST payments on annuities? And how do you think that can be addressed?
Actually, the GST issue on the annuity we have given, as Mr. Rathi told, we have given a clarification. However, there was some issue from the ministry. I mean, not ministry actually, it is the field people. I will tell you the example also. In case of TOT also, Roorkee GST intelligence, they have issued notice to NHA headquarters saying that you pay this much of GST on that one. Accordingly, we have taken up with the Minister of Finance also. They are very much favorable. This issue was also regarding the GST on the HAM annuities. We have raised it earlier, raised with the Minister of Finance. Now again, we are going to raise. And it is a fundamental thing. Everybody knows that there are three instances. One is where when we have work done. Second thing is when we have raised the invoice. And third thing, when we have made the payment. In case of annuities, at the time of annuities, the concessionaire is raising the invoice and we are making the payment. So out of three events, whenever any two events takes place, GST is liable. So we made it very clearly, but there is a communication gap. Now we are again taking up with the Ministry of Finance so that the issue will be resolved.
Sure, sir. The efforts and initiatives taken by NHAI so far has been quite encouraging for the sector, sir. We appreciate that. So before we move to the next round of discussion with our panelist, let me ask one important question to Vinay on impact of aggressive bidding for this acquisition transaction. So far there are various circulars by NHAI for closely monitoring the construction quality, especially for aggressively bid projects. But as an investor, how does one ensure the assets quality standard while acquiring them?
No, I think as any investor, and I think we've had multiple transactions that have happened in this space. I think now people fairly understand the due diligence procedures that need to be done to understand the quality of road, to understand various other potentially commercial issues that are there in terms of understanding what are the contractual issues that are pending on the ground. And these are typically addressed. Both typically seller and buyer typically work together to address these issues. I think you also answered this question reasonably in the presentation, where you said that typically some of these issues are much smaller, much lesser when there are stronger sponsors on the ground, and they get therefore addressed. In the cases of some weaker sponsors, yes, or distressed assets, it is a larger, it's a more sort of troublesome thing, where it's harder to sort of even understand what the situation on the ground is. And those are specific situations which need to be addressed, and you'll have to spend time to figure out what the issues are, and then accordingly price your bid in order to be able to make your returns.
Okay, got it. Understood. So you meant to say that if we see the projects awarded prior to March 20, those were largely awarded to the strong sponsor. So the challenges may be lower. But if we see the projects awarded post March 2020, so that is a mix of a strong and a moderate. So wherein your view is that there would be more due diligence would be required before this type of transaction to be fructified. Yeah. Understood, sir. Understood. So now moving to this third round of the discussion on execution rules. So let me begin with Mr. Rao. So sir, we have seen the presentation that the execution hurdles and competitive intensity has increased. So which can also lower down the construction pace for NH projects. So what are the remedial steps being taken for expediting the execution and declaring the appointed dates faster? Mr. Rao?
Sorry, just some urgencies. I could not. Sorry, if you kindly repeat, please.
Yeah, no issue, sir. We have seen in the presentation that execution hurdles and competitive intensity, both the things have increased, and these are the major challenges which can slow down the pace of construction for NHAI. So what are the remedial steps being taken for expediting the execution and faster declaration of the appointed date, sir?
Sir, actually, the main thing is that every week almost our chairman is reviewing the progress of the project, where there were delays there. He is writing a letters to directly to chief secretaries, and physically he is going also. And wherever the land issues are there, he is intervening and taking up the issues with the directly with the chief secretary, so that there may not be any further delay in the appointed date. And if you see the expenditure also this year, when you compared with last year, progressive expenditure also almost we about 3 to 4,000 crores. We are more than the last year expenditure is till now. So as it is, we are not expecting any reduction in our achievement of construction time. We are very hopeful that whatever the targets given by our ministry, we were able to achieve it. Because this year, as you know, our budget is about 2.08 crores. It is very much higher than the last year. And our plan is also, because of these elections and everything, as secretaries are told in the meeting also, almost 80% of the capex we are proposed to incur by December itself. Accordingly, we are planning. So there will not be any slowdown, and there is no shortage of funds. So whatever our set targets are there, both in awarding and as well as construction also, we are very sure that we'll achieve our targets.
Okay, understood. So we hope that all those steps taken by NHI will help the sector for maintaining the pace of construction.
And one more thing, sorry, just I want to use this opportunity because NHA is going aggressively in asset monetization. This year, we want to go at least one bundle, two bundles in each quarter. Already in first quarter, we have floated the bids for TOT 13 and 14. And this quarter, second and third, fourth quarter also, we want to go at least two bundles in each quarter. One bundle size is about 1,500 to 2,000 crores. The another bundle is about bigger size, about say 6,000 to 8,000 crores. So we are very much concerned about meeting our asset monetization targets through TOT. And similarly, in case of InvIT also, already InvIT round 3 is in advanced stage. Mostly by end of September, we may realize the amount also. And InvIT 4 also, we are aggressively pursuing. And another thing is, already we have identified about 46 stretches, where those stretches we want to go for asset monetization during the year 23-24. We kept the details of the projects in the NHA website so that the prospective bidders can study on those projects so that a decision will be taken. As far as TOT 11 and 12 are concerned, financial bids are open. We are working on that one. And TOT 13, 14, already bids were invited, and sometime September is the last date. And we are in the process of finalizing the stretches for TOT 15 and 16 also. So aggressively, we are going ahead in asset monetization during the year 23-24.
Okay. So there is a clear and well-defined strategy from NHI to accelerate the pace of asset monetization. So it's quite promising for the sector. So thank you, sir, for your inputs.
Thank you.
My next connecting question is to Mr. Rathi regarding the execution woes. So as we have seen in the presentation, 1/3 of the NHI HAM projects awarded post March 2020 are progressing with the delays of 4 to 6 months over and above the grace period of 3 months. So what all should be done for curtailing delays in the execution?
I think major reason would be because of declaration appointed some delays. Of course, there would be some reason in terms of change of scope, or earlier utility shifting was not in our scope. It was in the concessionary scope. It was actually in the
issues in your connectivity, Mr. Rathi. So, network issues, I think.
Am I audible?
Now audible, yes. Yeah, can you repeat?
Yeah. So I was telling that major issue was because of declaration of appointed date is getting delayed, right? And yes, of course, a weak sponsor, they may be busy in tying up their equity, upfront equity, which is generally required by the lenders. But one more change which we have seen, change of scope in terms of utility shifting. Now it has been that's now part of the bid project cost, which is which is to be incurred by concessionaire. And because this now got shifted to concessionaire, is also taking time. So yes, of course, I mean land acquisition is a major reason. It's probably if it can be done expediently, then probably I believe that the execution would be execution will be again coming to their same track.
Okay. So you're saying the change of increasing proportion of the change of scope because of the structure, etc. So that is leading to some execution challenges and land acquisition. These two.
Yeah, land acquisition is also there. Some change of scope is also there because utility earlier, though it was executed by concessionaire, but it was reimbursed by NHI. Now it is part of that BPC.
Cost, correct.
as a concessionaire is always trying to reduce their cost, and there was all a kind of to and fro between the various departments, like utility. And it was used to between NHI and the utility department. So yes, of course, and weak sponsor again, because they are busy in tying up their equity after doing the financial closure for the project. Right? So first they have to do the financial closure for project, and then financial closure for the equity requirement. Upfront equity requirement is generally condition precedent for the financial closure. Yes, and yeah, so it's a mix. I would say it's from land acquisition to financial impact. Both are both has to be improved.
Okay. So you were saying the land acquisition, the change of scope, then the utility shifting now a part of a bid project cost, so responsibility of the concessionaire. And fourth one is the sponsor credit profile. So these are the prominent reasons according to you.
Yes.
Do you expect, sir, the leverage will increase for the players because of these execution goals, and now likely discontinuation of the benefit of the monthly payment from March 24 under the Atmanirbhar, these two things?
Yeah. So if Atmanirbhar, let's say, discontinue from March 2024, I believe that there would be increase in working capital. So there is amendment in the concession agreement, or the earlier concession agreement, by installment payment of 8%. Now it is 10 installment payment, right? So to that extent, probably that debtors would be increasing by another 25 days, because of if let's say Atmanirbhar discontinues after March 2024.
Oh.
And in terms of leverage, yes, of course, because most of the mid-sized players are there, and most of the projects has been awarded to a small size or mid-sized player, right, where they are struggling at their equity front, right? So they would be generally sort of kind of additional leverage. Probably we will see over the period of next 2-3 years for raising that equity which is required, as an infusion, because I don't think that margin is that much high to take care of that equity infusion for the upcoming project. But yes, of course, I mean, there are so many investors, thanks to investors, they're increasing interest also. They are willing to put in equity during construction as well. And I believe that the early players probably would be able to churn their projects. Maybe they would be able to recycle their capital in early stage, and to that extent, I believe that for those players, they may not be that much increase in terms of leverage. But yes, of course, by and large, there would be increase in the leverage.
Okay. So next year we will able to see the impact on the leverage once we have our next year's balance sheet.
Yeah.
March 25. Yeah. So that's quite elaborative and insightful. So in fact, the collaborative efforts required from all the stakeholders for steering the sector through the obstacles. So actually, we have started the first question with you, Mr. Vikas. So my final question before we take the questions from the audience, that is also to you. So as a lender, as we have discussed, that there are some challenges with respect to the moderate sponsors, and in fact, the execution challenges have increased across the sponsor category. So as a lender, what challenges do you foresee in the financial closure for upcoming projects or projects belonging to moderate sponsor? That is first question. And secondly, what are the risk mitigation covenants or strategies expected from a lender for financing such large under construction projects?
So as you mentioned, has been discussed during the panel discussion, what we have seen is aggressive bidding happening in HAM projects predominantly. And that aggressive bidding has given open to challenges in terms of the viability of the project cash flows. Apart from that, the execution capabilities in terms of the concession. So what we have seen is in the moderate sponsorship, majorly activity is his execution skill and his funding capability in terms of funding by way of equity. So of late, we have seen challenges faced by them, especially when you are in a high interest rate regime. Which kind of challenges are quite evident when they come to the market, because your overall costing also increases, and the IRR at which they are contemplating, that also might get affected. Or from an overall perspective, what we have seen is in terms of mitigants is the debt sizing. what have they focused in terms of the O&M and the M&M pricing at what they have taken into account. Apart from that, appointment of the PMC is something which will be very crucial in terms of evaluating those projects. As a result of which, based on that, we would be in a position to take that call. At that point in time, it will be very difficult. It's purely a risk more from an execution perspective also, whether it is the expertise of that bidder to ensure that end-to-end execution is there in place. So that also will be one of the things that would need to be taken into account, because the history of the project execution needs to be looked at for evaluation.
Understood. So you are also mentioning about the tight monitoring of the projects, and imposing the stricter terms of the sanctions for
Yes.
To safeguard the lender's interest.
Exactly.
Correct. Understood. So with this, we come to end of today's panel discussion. So we will start the questions. We will take the questions from the audience soon. But may I request the participant to key in their queries in the panel. And before we take the questions from the audience, so my two quick questions. So first is to Mr. Rathi. So, like since the government of India has come out with this Vishwas scheme, so what type of benefit do you expect from the sector perspective because of this scheme?
Yeah, I would say this is a great initiative by the government, and it's going to, it's really going to create liquidity in this particular industry, and it will be, helping the developer, claim to come out of, that unnecessary litigation and all that, which is, taking time as well as. I mean, the developer will be able to spend their time in more, creative manner and in constructive manner, rather, indulging themselves into long drawn litigation and all that. But yes, of course, what I believe is that, I mean, I've gone through that scheme, and somewhat that scheme, to that's some extent, I would say it's more skewed towards in favor of, government. Yes, because where they are saying that even if the order or the arbitral order is also, settled by or in favor by in favor of concessionaire by the court also, then also they are releasing 85% of the payment, 85% of the amount, which ideally it should be 100% and without interest and whatever, right? So to some extent, yes, I believe that it is more skewed in favor of government, but yes, of course, this is going to create additional liquidity in our industry. Right?
Okay. Yeah. So my next question is to Mr. Vikas. So like as we have seen in the presentation, so harmonious substitution of the sponsor, so that has benefited the HAM projects of close to 12,000 crore. So issuance of partial COD while descoping or delinking of unavailable land is important reform implemented by NHAI on ground. However, what are unaddressed points from the lender side, and what all should be done to safeguard the lender's interest during the construction period?
So classic case, as Mr. Rathi mentioned also, land acquisition is the key in terms of, post evidence of the contract as well. We have seen land acquisition is something which needs to be, addressed. As a result of which, what we have seen is the construction during the construction period, almost 80% of the construction is complete, but then there are certain parcels where land acquisition is not been done. As a result of which, it does have issues in terms of cost overruns and in terms of getting annuities, etc. In addition to it, the descoping is something which needs to be taken into account. So it's I would say, a welcome step by NHAI. But at the same time, we have seen it takes a lot of time, to address these issues. As a result of which, there is a amount of uncertainty in terms of the annuity payment which would get finalized at a later stage. In turn, giving rise to cost overruns, which is not taken into account, and it has a cascading effect in terms of an overall project completion, thereby influencing your timely bonus payments, etc. So, in addition to it, one of the major thing what I thought is during concession stage, you will think lenders are having a monitoring which does keep into account, but at the same time, the overall, in spite of the overall completion not being there, the termination payment for lenders is something that needs to be taken into account by NHI. At the current scenario, that's not the case. So probably, as we are aware that whatever lenders are been utilizing for the project, that amount is been utilized by the concessionaire for the completion of the project. But the same has not been reimbursed to the lender. So termination payment is something probably could be, a thing which NHI can look at and think on those lines, probably to indemnify the lender to a certain extent, I would say. It would go a long way in progress of this sector.
Okay, understood. So now we will begin with the questions that we have received from the audience. So the first question is from Rahul Dandania. So that is to Mr. Rao, if you can answer. In view of, so that is with respect to the change in law. So how NHI is compensating for change in GST rate from 12% to 18% for the projects which were in the midst of the construction, as this would be additional equity requirements since the projects were already achieved a financial closure. So if you can
Actually, NHA has issued circular already. I think it is 18% effective from some 16th July 2022. We have already issued the circular. As on that day, what are all the projects under construction? And there were some projects, construction COD was issued, but annuity payments we are paying. So in case of annuity payment, how we have to proceed the 6%. In case of under construction, clear-cut guidelines circular. I do not have at that time presently the circular number, but we have given full clarity with circular how to treat the difference of 6% in case of under construction projects, in case of projects completed where annuity payments are being paid.
Okay, sir. So next question, that is also to you, Mr. Rao. That is from Jainam Shah. So if you look at the NHI target for award, so FY24, and if we compare it with the actual award, so the actual award till date is lower. So what are the plans basically to meet this target, and any specific reason for delay in awarding till date? That is the question.
There is no issue in this one. There is no specific reason for delay because every week our chairman is being monitoring at the highest level, and whatever targets given by the Minister of Road Transport, we are 100% sure that we will achieve it. Yes, there may be some slight slippage in this 1 or 2 months. We'll pick up that one. Totally, we'll achieve the set targets for the year 23-24.
Okay, understood, sir. Understood. So another question is from Mohit Raval. So that is to you, Mr. Vinay. So that is on the construction of the alternate routes. So basically, DME is constructed. Also, there is a potential threat from a DFC. So in this context, how do you see the traffic diversion risk on the long-term basis?
No, there will be certain sections which will be affected by traffic diversion. I think most players in the industry over the last few years have already started taking this into account for roads, especially in the western side. There will be diversions. There could be some which could have positive diversions because of the new alignment of the DME or DFC. But a larger set of roads will certainly have some negative diversion in the short run. But over a longer run, of course, I think all of us project traffic with some linkage to GDP, and all of these are fundamentally going to be multipliers for GDP, or at the very least help sustain our GDP growth over a longer period. So I think over the long term, these will average out. But yes, there are short-term disruptions which people have typically taken into account. So yes, if somebody is evaluating a road on the western side where there is a potential competition from DME, they will have to certainly take that into account.
Okay, understood. So you mean there would be some diversion in the short term, but it will not be. It will be difficult to quantify the percentage. It would be depending.
No, it's not. It's not. Obviously, people, I think, typically traffic consultants quantify it because if you are in an existing road, you will know what is the kind of traffic flowing there. You will evaluate the origin and destination of each of those roads, and then you can understand. You can then create a model to understand what percentage of those will potentially divert because of the new roads, right? And we are seeing some of these impacts already because DME is partially operational. So there are positives and negatives that could be playing out. So I think a traffic consultant typically they will be able to help you put a number to this, at least directionally speaking. Yeah.
So can I intervene at this moment regarding this one traffic diversions?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Actually, we are facing a lot of problems in our asset monetization, TOT and InvIT. Suppose we have done this Allahabad, Varanasi, and now Allahabad bypass also. Whenever there were this one, no, to find out the value of that one, then thinking that diversion because the Ganga Express may come or Purvanchal Express may come, and here also when we are monetizing this this Rawak at the Jabalpur, people are thinking that Delhi Mumbai Expressway. So as Mr. Vinay told, in Delhi Mumbai Expressway, one stretch we have opened, it is giving positive impact also. Actually, because of the diversion and at the same time increasing the traffic, whatever our apprehensions are there regarding that there may be reduction in the traffic, it may not come true our picture because there is a drastic increase in the traffic. This one in this one PCUs also. Recently we have opened this Jaipur DME. We are getting a very good toll. So this is a very subjective item and at the same time it is a crucial also. And actually for this type of problems only we want to address. Suppose this type of problems are addressed in the concession agreement itself, there will be any problem because in the concession agreement revenue stream, say I think every 5-6 years we are reviewing that one. If there is a reduction in the revenue, definitely concession period will be increased. If there is a reduction in the increase in the one, concession period will be decreased. But only thing is that at what quantity it will trigger. That is the most crucial point we are under discussion. So that these diversion issues will be sorted out over a period of time. Thank you.
Appreciate, sir. You answered that question correctly, sir. And in fact, one more point that is also from our side, like we are talking about the traffic diversion, but once that DFC become operational, so it will reduce to the lead time of also, and because of the reduction in the transit time, there will be improvement in the cost competency for India, and that can lead to the higher traffic on the roads also because of the higher GDP, as Vinay has also mentioned that it is linked to the GDP also. So all those things are connected and complex currently, but yes. So the traffic
sorry, because I want to use this opportunity. Wherever we have monetized the roads, TOT1 and TOT3, 5 and InvIT also, whatever our projections were there at that time to calculate the IECV and what are the revenue we are getting in remote cases, I think on all the projects where we have monetized, they are getting a good revenue than the project. Whatever may be the reasons.
Yeah. Yes, sir. It's quite encouraging, sir. And therefore, because of that also, there is a good amount of appetite from the lender also and investor also for the toll roads over the years, sir. Correct, sir. So, sir, the next question is from Jimmy Dalal. So, it is to Mr. Vikas. So, he's asking about the any benchmark that you keep while assessing the working capital borrowing linked to the revenue of EPC company.
So definitely the benchmark, as I mentioned to you, apart from the general parallels which we normally draw in terms of the visibility of the cash flows, apart from that, what we see is in the revenue model, we have M&M contract and O&M contract apart from debt sizing and DSCR that is taken into account. And based on that, we try and assess as to how the overall viability is going to see of that project. And based on that, we take the call.
Okay. So, sir, my next question is to Mr. Rao, you, sir. It is also again from a Jainam Shah. So, there has been a few ropeway projects awarded during FY23. However, no major update have come from these projects in terms of LOA or something post LOA. So, does NHI planning for the rebidding or it's just a procedural delay?
Actually, this is being handled by NHLML. National Highway Logistic Management Company Limited. It is a separate legal entity. I do not have much idea about the ropeway projects.
Okay, understood, sir. So the next question is also from Sagar Bhadra. So that is on a national monetization pipeline. So that is also to Mr. Rao. So he is asking that the 1.5 year is pending. So how is this achievability of this national monetization pipeline target?
Actually, as far as my knowledge, just monetization target for road sector is about 1.6 lakh crores. We have done already around 76,000 crores through TOT, InvIT and asset monetization. Actually, in the initial stages, the number of bidders participating in TOT also less. Now also 4 or 5 players only they are participating. And whatever the approach NH has taken this year by displaying the prospective uh, roads going for monetization, we are expecting a good response. And within this year and as per the schedule, we hope that we could able to achieve the set targets. Because as I told you, this year we are planning for 2 bundles in each quarter, small and bigger size, and at least InvIT 2 rounds. InvIT round 3 is in progress and round 4, and through securitization also. So we hope that we could able to achieve the target as given in the NIP.
Okay, understood, sir. So, sir, next question is also to you, Mr. Rao. So that is on a Bharatmala phase 2. So since the Bharatmala phase 1 is delayed, so currently the awarding is going on for Bharatmala phase 1. So when do you expect that Bharatmala phase 2 will start? In any state or region that you want to highlight, there would be more emphasis in that Bharatmala phase 2.
Sir, actually this Bharatmala phase 2, Ministry has sent the PIB notice under circulation active consideration. It is at highest level for taking a final view on Bharatmala phase 2. That much only you can tell about phase
2. Okay. Understood. So I think we have answered most of the questions from the audience. 1 or 2 questions are still there. Yeah. But because of the paucity time, we are taking the last question. So this last question is on the trend in the bidding. So I think this can be asked to Mr. Rathi. So there is aggressive bidding across the sponsor category. So how do you see this? What are the long-term impact on the sectors because of this?
Yeah, so yes, of course, because of Atmanirbhar circular, which is and the relaxation being provided by the.
Rathi, your voice is not clear.
Let me switch off my audio, right? Am I audible, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, because of that extension provided by, and, everybody, every mid-size, small-size player, jumping into PPP projects where they have to put in their equity. Yes, and because of that, that competition is getting is increasing day by day, which I believe will continue for another, maybe for the current year, and that is again, I mean, supported by the financial market also. I mean, financials are more aggressive in terms of HAM success. The success of HAM is also witnessed by the financial institution. All so HAM becomes a favorite for every financial institution. Every financial institution wants to fund HAM and all that. For that reason, probably that competitive intensity is continuing for next, maybe for another 6 months. But going forward, because not a small size player would be able to take much debt on their holdco level and that, and probably next 6 to 12 months, probably I believe that the competition will be coming down. If or otherwise, government has to take their relaxation again. They have to roll back their relaxation again. Then also, otherwise, it's going to continue.
Okay, so big message that I can gather from you is that because HAM is a preferred mode, and HAM is a success also for the sector, and because of this Atmanirbhar there is a monthly payment. So because of that, there is a aggressive bidding, and it is expected to continue for 6 months or so, and then it will be rationalized. Got it?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And of course, that result would be, on the ground that quality would be certainly deteriorating in terms of, while whatever construction, whatever road is getting built and this kind of.
True, sir. It's quite insightful. So with this, we have concluded this Q&A part also. And I think we had a very interesting time today. And more importantly, we have gotten very clear answer from the industry experts and very enthusiastic participation from Rao sir also. So we all agree that the success of Bharatmala Pariyojana and this national monetization pipeline that requires a firing of cylinders from all quarters, enabling policies for curtailing the bidding aggression with emphasis on a quality of construction and effective enforcement of the contractual clauses on the ground on a continuous basis. So those are the crucial for attracting and maintaining the momentum for the sector. All in all, we believe that the Indian road sector is holding up steady despite obstacle. So thank you once again, Mr. Rathi, Mr. Vikas, Rao sir, and Mr. Vinay,
Thank you so much.
sharing your deep insights and patiently answering all the queries of participants that were posed
चीजों के कंपटीशन वगैरह मांग रहे हैं thank you very much thank you
within the time constraint. And I am privileged to host you all in
no,
today's session. And thank you all participants for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I now hand over the session
Thank
to
you.
Maulesh for the closing remarks.
Thank you, Maulesh, for moderating the session, and Palak and Setu for your presentation. Thank you again to all our guest speakers for their insightful views. It was a privilege to host you. And thank you to all the participants for taking time out and being a part of this CareEdge webinar. For any further queries, feedback, and suggestions, please write to us at corp.com@careedge.in. Goodbye for now.